We have to acknowledge the moment and not going around the problem. Everybody here is underperforming. No matter what the circumstances, we are underperforming. And we have to accept that it's unacceptable to lose so many games. In 10 games in Premier League, we won 2. I know that. Imagine what is this for a fan of Manchester United. Imagine what is this for me. So we are getting a new coach that is losing more than the last coach. I have full knowledge of that. Like I said, I'm not going to change, no matter what. And I know we can succeed, but we need to survive this moment because I'm not naive. And I know that we need to survive now. So we are being the worst team, maybe, in history of Manchester United. I know that you want headlines, but I'm saying that because we have to acknowledge that and to change that. So here you go, your headlines. To lose so many games in Premier League, especially if you are in Manchester United. No matter the situation, no matter the moment, this should not be settled.
Mistakes happen, but they keep happening. How do you stop them happening? Why do they keep on happening?
I don't know. We need to be better. I think that is really clear. And it doesn't matter if we have a lot of time to train, if I know the players or not. It's not settled. We need to change that. So we are continuing to work and to change these details that can change the game.
Mistakes are part of football, and you're going to do it. You're going to make it, and that's okay. But the thing is, like, you need to have the braveness to get back and do it again and do it again. We're even talking too much about difficult to play Old Trafford. How is possible that Man United has difficulties to play at home ground with the atmosphere that we have? We can't put all these things up to make excuses of not winning games and not being brave enough to do the things.
We had a good structure in the game. We had not big chances, but I think we were always a danger for them. And then we changed small things in the halftime, and then especially in the second half, we were very stable against the ball. We had a good structure in possession, and in the end, I think we deserved to win.
Thought we started well, and then lost a bit of our shape and structure, and they obviously got the goal back, and poor goal to give away, but the way we play, sometimes it happens, and we showed a great reaction from that moment to get back in the game, raise the intensity, and we've had 3 massive games this week and 3 wins in this big week.
Well, both Duncan and Hertzler talked about structure, and tactically they got it spot on today, didn't they? Particularly out wide.
Yeah, they did, and maybe they identified some weaknesses in this Manchester United back 5-3-5, however you see it, and players to really exploit that. And you can see right from the off what the intent was from the Brighton wide players, Matoma and Minter, stretching or trying to make runs from out to in. You can see getting between. You can see Euro getting and De Ligt getting in wrong positions here, and leaving massive gaps between fullbacks and your main centre half. And it just opened up the gap for Matoma to run into. You can see him again, really on the touchline, and then getting beyond the back line. And look at Manchester United's line, disjointed. And what you want from your opposite wide player when your winger on the other side is on the ball is for them to make up the box, and they do just that. It wasn't just the in-possession stuff that was good about both of the wide players today. And you can see Minter here, he's not giving up this chase and getting back and making a tackle here on Dallo and winning the ball back for his team, and then getting up the pitch. And the same on the opposite. Matoma, the ball goes past him. He thought his teammate had good possession, he didn't, but he fights to win it back and then just settles the play for Brighton, and they go again. Here's what I really like. Tries to win it. He doesn't win the first one, but what he does, he stays on it, allows his team to get behind the ball and reshape. And then, as we said, Minter on the other side. I mean, this is an unbelievable interception, reading the danger, getting back into a good position and sensing that. And then what his teammate did for him in the first half, Minter, he thought he'd do the same for Matoma on the opposite, and cuts back on the left and just leaves the ball into a great area. And what I said before, what you want from the opposite wide player when you're wingers on the ball is to make up the back post, and they do that. But look at this graphic. I think it basically shows you how good both of those wide players were in terms of distance covered and areas they got themselves into.
Well, even though they played as a back four, the wingers virtually performed as wing backs when you see all those different places where they touch the ball. After the game, Ruben Amorim expanded a little bit more in his press conference about Manchester United. Some of these quotes are all over social media and will be all over the papers in the morning as well. This is what he had to say.
In 10 games in Premier League, we won 2. I know that. Imagine what is this for a fan of Manchester United. Imagine what is this for me. So we are getting a new coach that is losing more than the last coach. I have full knowledge of that. Like I said, I'm not going to change, no matter what. And I know we can succeed, but we need to survive this moment because I'm not naive. And I know that we need to survive now. So we are being the worst team, maybe, in history of Manchester United. I know that you want headlines, but I'm saying that because we have to acknowledge that and to change that. So here you go, your headlines.
Well, we are the worst team maybe in the history of Manchester United. He's trying to fire them up any which way he can, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really bold statement. I mean, to say that they're the worst ever in the Premier League, it's a team, the starting team today costs 391 million. They've got 341 caps between them. These are some experienced players that some of them, are still young. 5 summer signings cost 182 million that they've just brought in. So they're trying to strengthen. It's not working. They need to find a way. I personally wouldn't enjoy being called out like this. It would probably fire me up, which is probably the intent. But nobody wants to be known as the worst team that's ever played for a certain football club. And, that's a really bold, probably an honest and probably right on the mark statement.
There are probably a lot of fans who will agree with them, particularly the ones who were there today, because, at times they looked a right shower, didn't they?
Yeah, they definitely did. And certainly defensively, you can't argue with some of the quotes that he's come out with. But I think the back 5/3, however we see it, in particular, you can see right from the off. I mean, the intent they're at home. We're at Old Trafford here against Brighton, and yes, it's a kick-off. It's only Xerxes that wants to go. Maguire, challenges the first. No intent to get up the pitch and close the second balls down. But you can already see Euro here wants to go in on Pedro, which in doing that is working into Brighton's hands. We just spoke about it before. Wide players wanting to run into that space that they leave, and they did it all afternoon. And this Manchester United back 5, you see it here again. Euro going right in on Pedro. You've got Welbeck as your other number 10 that starts as a striker and drops into that 10 position. You've got De Ligt, half an eye on him. Do I go? Don't I go? Euro, we see, is still in there. De Ligt wants to go in. What that does is create a massive gap between the back 3 and then the space that Brighton were looking for all afternoon just opens up for them. And I think defensively, Leon, they were all over the place, this Manchester United back 5.
Yeah, I mean, that one was a simple goal, but, you get in at half-time, you come out in the second half. Has anything changed? Well, no. I mean, this is a team we've just showed centre-halves are trying to learn their new role. They're trying to step in. They're wondering whether it's going or not. There's absolutely no pressure on the ball. What are they expecting? If they're going to try and step in and going to be aggressive, that front lot in front, the front 5 in front, have got to pressurise the ball a lot better. They can't get beat that easy. The back 5's getting criticised because they're not keeping efforts out.
It's a team thing, isn't it?
It's a team thing. The people in front of them just aren't closing down. We just talked about Everton earlier in the show, starting aggressively, putting the opposition on the front foot, on the back foot. Manchester United aren't doing anything like that. They're so easy to play against at the moment.
And they make individual mistakes.
Yeah, it's a big pitch and they allow that, and then they tire themselves out, and then you make dreadful errors like that. So if it's going wrong at one end of the pitch, you're not able to sort it at the other, and then you're making huge mistakes as well. It's making them...
You mentioned, go back to the start, and Everton, and they haven't played that, and they play that, and they knew what they were doing. He's not asking them to be nuclear physicists. He's asking them to switch from a back 4 to a back 3. How hard can it be?
No, I'm not saying it is, but they'll
no,
not.
Is it hard?
It
genuinely, is it hard?
It's different. It shouldn't be this hard. But if you're not prepared to run around the pitch, you're not closing down. I mean, they were so off it today. They allowed a team of Brighton's quality to come and knock the ball around and get into the game. They sat off so much. Yeah. What are you expecting that kind of team will take you apart?
A disconnect what? Between
I think
the
a disconnect
units?
between... between the units, between the understanding, between the back three and maybe your wing backs, when to go, when not to go. And then your midfield two, the distances between the midfield two and the three and in the back line. And then you saw at times Bruno, Garnacho at times getting frustrated and chasing areas that they shouldn't be. That disconnects the whole team. And we saw it throughout. And Leon mentioned we probably will blame the back five. But I think what happens in front obviously affects that. And I think the disconnect is there. But I can understand why he'd say it's the worst team because, as you say, Everton have made a small change and have been able to connect quickly. They've been doing this now for 10 games and it doesn't seem to be much improvement. OK, we could say the Liverpool game and the Arsenal Cup game, but apart from that, there's not much of an improvement.
OK, Simon.
Ruben, you said to TV that the fans are going to have to suffer, the players are going to have to suffer. Can you explain in your mind what that looks like? Because a lot of people will say those players out there have cost tens of millions of pounds and they are consistently underperforming.
It's hard to explain. We have to acknowledge the moment and not going around the problem. Everybody here is underperforming. No matter what the circumstances, we are underperforming. And we have to accept that it's unacceptable to lose so many games for any club in Premier League. Imagine Manchester United. So it's a really hard moment, but we have to continue. We have to continue. There is no other way. We need to suffer and continue.
Samuel.
You said in the week that you learned more from the Southampton game this week in general after two poor performances, one good result, one bad result. What have you learned about these players?
The opponents are better than us in many details. That we cannot be consistent. That I'm not helping my players in the moment. So it's a hard moment. You have to acknowledge that we are in a very difficult situation. We are without all the bad records as losing games at home, losing games at Premier League. So we are really underperforming, and we need to win games. That's all.
James.
When you say you're not helping the players, what do you mean by that? And when you say everyone's underperforming, do you consider yourself now doing differently?
I knew that was going to be hard. To put a completely new idea in the moment, but then when you lose games, you don't have that luck to win 3 games in a row. It's becoming really hard. So that's why I'm telling that we are going to suffer because I will continue to do the same. So to help my players is to give them the tools to play in this way. But then without training is really hard. Then without training in losing games, and you can feel it in the end of the game. Everybody was changing position, was not in, and that is something that I will not see again. We can lose, but we have to maintain position. If I want to show some different, I just want to help my players. I want to show to the media or to the fans, I put 2 strikers. I didn't put 2 strikers because if I put 2 strikers, it is going to be more difficult for them to understand the way we play. So I'm just here to try to help my players, but we need to understand that we are breaking all the bad records. So it's a proud thing we need to change.
Anton.
Ruben, you said that obviously the opposition's been better in a lot of the games that you've faced this season. That's going to be very difficult for fans to hear a Manchester United head coach say that. I mean, that kind of, how do you address that?
Yes, in 10 games in Premier League we won 2. I know that. Imagine what is this for a fan of Manchester United. Imagine what is this for me. So we are getting a new coach that is losing more than the last coach. I have full knowledge of that. Like I said, I'm not going to change no matter what. And I know we can succeed, but we need to survive this moment because I'm not naive. And I know that we need to survive now. So we are being the worst team, maybe, in history of Manchester United. I know that you want headlines, but I'm saying that because we we have to acknowledge that and to change that. So here we go, your headlines.
Jeremy.
Hi, Ruben. There's a case that Marcus Rashford is probably the best forward here, certainly one of the best forwards. So do you feel sort of like disappointed or let down that he's not here to be able to help the team when you're in a difficult situation, not to bring him on or whatever? Do you feel let down by him?
No.
Why not? Because you yourself have said he was left out for training reasons. That's his responsibility, right? So that's on him, yes?
Guys, like you said, is his choice. And I don't want to focus this bad moment because in this moment Rashford is not here. In the last games that we lost, Rashford was not here. So I don't want to put this moment on Rashford. Rashford is out of this moment because he's not playing. And no matter what, I'm not going to put a player that I don't believe is the best for the team. That's all.
Okay, so just with regard to it's difficult for your players to take on a new idea, your idea for the season. These are top professionals. How difficult can it be?
Guys,
because they're very good players in theory.
Yeah, but they are used to different things, and then you already saw in your years of experience. Sometimes you have one team that almost win the league, and then the next season is really bad without confidence. Our players are really nervous in actions, and then when you go inside the pitch, you remember the last games here. If I feel it, the players feel it a lot. So the only way is to continue to do the same and to win games. That's the only way to fix this.
Carl.
For most of today, it looked as if Brighton was stronger and quicker to these second balls. You've spoken a lot about physicality and how you really want your players to run back and really battle. How do you build that in a team right now? How do you build this physicality multiple times?
First of all, it's training. Then we need to, in everything we do, even if the train is small, it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we have to give everything. And then we have to be prepared to suffer. And that is the only way. And then we have to feel that feeling that we felt against Liverpool, losing, and then reach a game of Liverpool in something appears to the players. We have to feel that every day. Even when we win 2 games, we need to have that feeling every day. But I think in the training ground during the week is the best way to train that thing.
Last question, James.
Ruben, just on the first goal, obviously it's a new system, you've not got much time in the training ground, but that just didn't look like anything to do with the system. It just looked like a complete absence of concentration at the start of the game. Do you agree with that? Is it concerning that at the start of the game players could switch off so quickly like that?
Yeah, we need to be really focused on the game. And sometimes I felt that the team is focused in a lot of stuff, also because of the moment. But it's a simple play. If there is one play that Brighton does, is to push the centre back and the winger makes the movement, and we knew that before the game. So I don't want to point to that specifically. Is everything. So the only way is to work really hard, to win games, to have time for a new idea, to change things around.
Just on Onana, Ruben, obviously outstanding for you on Thursday. Kept you in the game and won it up for him, but obviously there was another individual lapse in the third goal. Is it a bit of a concern that you've seen these individual lapses come back into the game after what was a difficult start in
It's like the team, ups and downs, really ups sometimes, and really low downs. So we have to maintain, like you said, maintain the focus during all the game to try to win games. That is the only way that we can turn things around. Thank you. 10 games in Premier League we won 2. I know that. Imagine what is this for a fan of Manchester United. Imagine what is this for me. So we are getting a new coach that is losing more than the last coach. I have full knowledge of that. Like I said, I'm not going to change, no matter what. And I know we can succeed, but we need to survive this moment because I'm not naive. And I know that we need to survive now. So we are being the worst team maybe, in history of Manchester United. I know that you want headlines, but I'm saying that because we have to acknowledge that and to change that. So here we go, your headlines.
And they are some headlines as well. He's not mincing his words there. He's hinting that this group of players could be the worst in Manchester United's history. Do you make of that?
I'd say maybe less talk and better performances would be better right now. I mean, it's tough really because everybody likes him because he's probably one of the best talkers I've ever heard as a man, especially as a foreign language. You know, as a Portuguese speaker, to come and speak English the way he does, I find remarkable. But nobody wants him to change. Just adjust. Just tweak it a little bit. You can see 2 and 3 goals every game. Everybody plays through you. Southampton came to Old Trafford and are one of the worst teams we've ever seen in Premier League history. 6 points from 60, and they popped it around like Barcelona. So it's not about, nobody wants him to not have success. Everybody wants him to. But right now, you got to keep the boat afloat, and you got to find a way to hang in there. You know, and the way they played against Southampton and today against Brighton, I don't think any of us before the game thought they were going to beat Brighton, which is ridiculous. You know, they should be able to beat Brighton, even if they got some of the issues that they have. But there's a lot of, I mean, again there, I mean, Baleba, he could probably start from Man United. Ball over the top, Matoma, that first touch is crazy good. Yeah. And it's a tap-in from Minte. And you think about Matoma and Minte, they're the types of players we used to see at Man United. Flying wingers, brilliant on the ball. I mean, this is, you know, Brighton, the keeper. He takes risks, you know, he tries to play out. But Steve, they had one shot on target in the game. Yeah. One. And obviously Bruno scores a penalty, but they don't look like scoring. They concede 2 and 3 to win every game. Yeah, I know it's not just about the 3-4-3. You just got to be harder to beat.
Yeah, it's not so much about the system. People obviously want to talk about the system and that, but I mean, if you're not willing to run and compete, you know, even here, you know, can you stop the cross? You don't. You know, you speak about the goalkeeper could have come there. Matoma at the back post scores. It's a good goal from Brighton's point of view and that, but again, it's just so easy to play against. People not getting close to people, individual mistakes, you get punished at this level. And it seems to be every game. And I think sometimes if there was a case of, you know, you're at home and a case of like missing chances and you think, okay, at least we're creating chances, but if you don't even look like scoring one shot on target, it's not right.
If you were a current Manchester United player listening to your manager say that you might be part of the worst group of players in Manchester United's history, would that motivate you? Would it bother you?
To be fair to him, I don't think he meant them. I think he meant they're the kind of the most underperforming team they've seen.
You're part of that team then, in the dressing room?
Look, I think the thing people like about him is the fact that he's honest.
Is he too honest?
I think at the moment he's probably a little bit too honest, yeah. I think everybody respects it because Ten Hag kept coming out saying, oh, well, you know, we're doing well, and they weren't. And it annoyed everyone. Whereas I think now Amorim's coming and he's going, right, you know, yeah, you know, there's anxiety and there's all these things, fine. But actually, if the team needs to play better, because he's being open with the press and with everyone, and it's true, we can see it. But I think that also he needs to also protect the group a little bit, because they're not performing better with him being as open as he is.
Well, actually performing worse than under Erik Ten Hag in terms of points.
Arguably, yeah.
Well, the points they are.
Yeah.
It's taken less points.
But I think Eric got kind of labelled with no identity. We don't know what they are. So obviously Amorim knew that coming in. So he said, well, this is how I play, 3-4-3. But actually to change a whole system in a season from a back 4 to a 3, and you can see it doesn't really suit the
with
boys
somebody
right now.
else's players. I mean, do you have a degree of sympathy in the fact that he has walked in and inherited these players? He's not signed one of these players to play his way.
1,000,000%, of course. I think everybody has. People had sympathy with Eric. People had sympathy with Ruben, but still.
Well, Eric had spent plenty of money, to be fair.
Yeah, but if you're 13th and you spend all that money, and I think he said, 10 games? We would have expected him to win more than 2 or 3 of
3 wins from 11, and it is 11 points from 33.
And the City one, okay, it was a great finish, but could have drew or lost that.
But 11
easy.
points from 33.
Yeah, it's not good enough, whatever way you want to. And I think him coming in, we thought, right, we're excited, you know, got a clear identity, he's positive, he plays the right way. But I'm not sure the personnel that he has, which isn't his, is suited to play in.
So what are you saying? He should use someone else's personnel to play another way that he wants to play?
Why don't we just find a way to get some results right now? We'll get you some of your players in the summer, get rid of a few, and then you can play that way maybe. This isn't about, look, I really like Ruben. I think he's going to do brilliantly. This isn't about him. This is about Manchester United getting results. It's not about a 3-4-3. It's none of that. It's about, can you find a way to get results? They're not getting results. So find something. Pep didn't win the Champions League, because he was a bit too open in the Champions League. What did he do? He went to a back four centre-backs, Pep. And what happened? He won the Champions League. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with adapting, Steve? I respect him for having an opinion on this 3-4-3. It's not working. Can we just find a solution so we can get to that space when we can get you your players where the wing-backs are the difference point? Because right now, if Southampton are playing through you and Brighton are playing through you, can we find something in between maybe in the short term?
What do you think? I just feel like it's a tricky one because obviously they're conceding goals and they don't look like scoring. I don't think he's going to go against how he plays. I don't think he's going to change the system. He's not going to play 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 because, 3-4-3, that's his system. It's just, he's got to obviously try and find a way to first look like you're going to score and create. Of course, the players have to take responsibility as well. You need more quality. Apart from Ahmed, really, who else would you say that's really looks like doing anything? At times, you watch Ahmed play and you think, I'm sitting there thinking, you're too deep. I'd like you closer to the goal. Bruno Fernandes, but the game today, throughout the game, they didn't deserve to win the game. Didn't create enough. And without the ball, just not good enough, too easy to get through. The Southampton game was the same. And Southampton has struggled this season. So he's going to have to try and change something.
And he's going to try somehow and get some sort of aura back at Old Trafford, because that is 6 home defeats now. The worst in all of a season is 7. And perhaps the most damning of all, they've lost 6 of their opening 12 home league games. Do you know when the last time that happened? 1893.
1893?
Yes. 6 home defeats in their opening 12 games.
Yeah, you're right, and that's my only point, Steve. They need to find something. This ain't about, okay, this is my system.
But if he doesn't change the system, how does he find something?
It's not about the system. I don't talk about that.
What would you like to see him do in the short term to win some football matches?
He's got to settle on a group of players he thinks are going to get him results. He's had 11 games where he's pretty much chopped and changed everything. Every time. He's tried everyone. Right, you're in charge. Go pick the guys you think are going to be there for you. And I think at some point he's got to settle on that. He keeps chopping and changing with Xerxes and Højlund because, goal scoring is the biggest issue at Manchester United right now. Who are the 2 midfield players, Steve? Do you know how hard it is to play midfield with just 2 guys in the Premier League? I don't know any other team that just plays with 2 in there. And basically, Kobe is a brilliant player, by the way. I'd be sad ever to see him leave. Ugarte's a good player, but the 2 of them in there, they're on their own. Southampton outplayed them. Brighton outplayed them. You need somebody else in there to help these guys. I don't care if you still play a 3, but somebody drop in and help defensively. So with the ball, play maybe forward quicker. We've seen United be at the best on the counter, and you got to defend. You got to be more compact together. There's too many spaces, and they're too easy to play against.
One thing he said at the end as well: players were out of position, and that will not happen again.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult, especially when a manager comes in and it's like a new system, and then not only that as well. You're playing out of position. I can imagine there's loads of information on a training pitch. Because it's difficult for a coach when you come in halfway through the season with a different system. It's so much information. You have to concentrate. You've got players playing out of position. We spoke about Garnacho before. He's a winger. If he plays as number 10, for that position, you look at Bruno Fernandes. Naturally, in that position, he's going to be effective because he takes the ball on a half turn and he creates things. But when you've got a player that's sort of like just direct and you want to get on it and run at people. Kobe Mainoo, you keep saying it, he's playing in a 2. He maybe needs that someone next to him that he can sort of like link with, that short support, so he can then they can gain some control of the game.
But I don't think he means to remain, he must mean defensively out of position, because he can't mean offensively, because they didn't create anything.
No.
So I'm guessing he's thinking, first goal, Matoma gets in behind Mazraoui. He's not out of position, he's just ball watching. If anything, Euro's out of position, but he's doing what the manager wants. What's he doing? If somebody drops into midfield, João Pedro, the 10, I got to go with. So, and that's why Minte in the end has a tap in, because Euro's out of position. You know, Ugarte, he's not sure, he's on Welbeck. De Ligt steps out. And watch this, square ball, and Euro's late. He's late because he stepped into midfield, so that's out of position. But actually, if the manager's telling the centre-backs, when they get, I want you to jump out on them, I'm telling you what, with Minte and Matoma, they knew that. They waited high and wide, and when the ball went wide, one long ball, and they were in. So he can say they're out of position, but they might have been out of position because, you know, they're doing what the manager said, I want you to jump into midfield.
If that was happening all the time, where they just kept playing long, getting him... As a midfielder, if I'm a centre, you'd be saying to me, go and press. Because if there's no pressure on the ball, it's so easy for a defender just to clip it in those sort of channels.
Yeah, and
you play with Carlos Tevez.
Yeah, and Xerxes was right there. You know, he doesn't...
But there's no pressure.
There's no pressure on the ball.
There's no pressing, no.
No. So it's fine to get in your shape. And look, they're in his shape, by the way. That's his 3-4-3. Look where Euro is. Look at Euro. Look where he's looking. He sees Minte. He's thinking, I got João Pedro, but Minte, Dalo's got Minte and, you know, the right wing back. Look at that. So they're in that shape that he said to them. But like that first, remember at Portman Road, he said the boys are thinking too much about their positions.
I just feel like the body shape of all of the back line is wrong. The body shape, it looks like the number 9's pressing. I think the body shape's got to be different, completely different. Because if you're not going to press, not saying to drop off, because there's a thing where you say if there's no pressure on the ball, you should drop off. But if you are not going to press, then your body shape's got to be different. Especially when you're playing against players like Matoma that's going to run in behind.
But Jermaine, tell me from that team who's going to press. Kobe's a great player, he's not a presser.
Yeah.
Ugarte's a great player, can't press. Xerxes can't press. The only one that can press in that team is Ahmad.
But there has to be a trigger then. There has to be a trigger. So whether that's anything, if there's a ball being passed back to the goalkeeper, we go and press, there has to be a trigger. You have to work on a trigger, because if you ain't got players that are dynamic enough to go and press, then at some stage in training you work on triggers. Okay, then if the ball gets played back, then you go and press. Or if it's a bad touch, we go and press. But if not, we just stay in our shape.
So is this all training ground time that they need here for this message to become more clear and more organised?
But even more to my point, if you don't have the time on the training grounds because you're playing games every day, find just a temporary solution that that maybe the boys have a little bit more familiar with. Do you know what I mean? It's not... This formation is going to be his thing for sure, and he had an amazing success with it. But it probably needs a bit of time on the training ground and personnel-wise. You look at all the great teams, you know who's playing. Arsenal, Liverpool, you know who the whole team is. United change the team every week.
Which is him trying to find out about players as
Which
well.
I respect. But what I'm saying is, while you're trying to figure that out, maybe you find a little hybrid model of this. Or maybe you defend a little bit deeper. Or maybe you play a little bit more compact. But they look like they're in the shape that he wants them to be in. But still, people are not... You saw Euro there. He's thinking, is that mine? Or am I taking João Pedro? And that lets you know it does need reps on the training ground, but you don't have time for reps because you've got games every 3 days.
And then we got another point here. That was another back three that he's played today, left Martinez out. So he's trying different combinations. There's no partnerships. There's no consistency back there as well with the message he wants to get across.
Yeah, and I think everything's about partnerships, whether in defence, in midfield. Jermaine, probably like you'll have guys that you say, he was my favourite to play with, right?
Yeah, because it's relationships.
Yeah.
You know, when it sort of like builds over a period of time when you play together. But it's massive in football. You know, it's the back line, you know, obviously I know teams don't play with two centre forwards now, but the front three, it's all about relationships. And when it keeps chopping and changing, it's really difficult to get any...
You couldn't name United's team next week.
No.
Defence, midfield, or attack.
No.
Outside of Bruno and Ahmad will play. And then there's another 7 guys that are going to play with Onana. And I think if you look at Liverpool, it's pretty much the same team every week. Arsenal, it's the same team every week. I think for Ruben's sake, he's got to settle on the guys he thinks, right, these guys are going to help me right now.
But are you concerned? Obviously, this window is very difficult to do business in, but when they get to the summer, he certainly can't make 8 or 9 changes here, can he? It's virtually impossible to get that many players out of a club. So is he going to just focus on the crucial areas of recruitment to help the way he wants to play?
Aren't they all crucial, though? I mean...
But where are you in terms of not ripping this team up, but going forward, what we saw today, for instance, what percentage of that team can take Manchester United forward, do you think?
I would be reluctant to buy players to suit a certain system. So if you're just going to buy players to suit this formation, I'd be reluctant because, you know, the landscape changes in a year or two real quick. They did that for Erik ten Hag, spent 600 million on what? And now Ruben's got his players and they don't suit his formation. The club should have an identity on how they want to play, always, regardless of who the manager is. And the players that come in are going to suit any manager, because he's going to go, I'll tell you what, I like him, I like him, I like him.
So what percentage of the current players do you think Ruben Amorim would want to keep and work with?
Only he could answer that. One thing he needs desperately is a striker.
Yeah.
He needs a striker ASAP. And he needs, if he's going to play a midfield too, which he is, he needs somebody that can run like the wind. And I don't see that in this team. The guy I can see doing that, his name's Edison. He plays at Atalanta, Brazilian international. He's a hell of a player. And he could get through some work in there. But if he's going to play like this, I don't... It's a striker and an athletic midfield player, for sure.
I just feel it's too difficult, especially in the modern day game, where a lot of teams overload centrally. Because before it was teams just play 4-4-2, you know, and you think now teams, you've got fullbacks playing inverted. So even when you play with a 3, sometimes you still get overloaded.
Yeah.
So when you play with a 2, it's still a young player. It's so difficult. It's difficult, and I've always said that if you can control that position in the pitch, you've got a better chance of winning the game.
Is there an element he's learning about the Premier League and the intensity of it that perhaps, you know, obviously in Portugal isn't there?
Big time.
At times.
Big time. And he would have had that. I was at the first game against Ipswich Town, and he would have had that after the first game, because they could have lost that game. And Ipswich just got promoted, but they played some nice football. And I think even if with his Portuguese coaches, he would have said, "Wow, this is going to be, this is going to be hard." And Southampton came to Old Trafford and played. Brighton came and played. So there is more competition, and I think obviously in Portugal they dominated the ball more. He says it before every game. We got to keep the ball better. We got to keep the ball better, and they're struggling to, because there's a lot of good teams in the Premier League right now. Man United's best attribute is, we saw it against Liverpool and Arsenal and City. What? Counter-attack. Transition.
Yeah.
Stop trying to dominate the ball. You don't have the personnel for it. Play teams on the counter and try and find a way to keep it tight at the back.
But then when you do counter on transition, when you do counter and you get your opportunities, you need the quality at the top of the pitch.
That's why you need striker, Jay.
You need the quality at the top of the pitch, because you can approach games and be like, okay, we're going to be solid and counter-attack. And then when we get the chances, we make the best of the chances. But if you ain't got the quality at the top of the pitch, you ain't going to win football matches. It's as simple as that.